What up, what up? Welcome back to the channel. I'm MoedotJ and we are locked in. This is episode 3 of Women in the Movement. Now, this is one of the hardest shows that I had to break down just because it's based on true events and we're getting the backstory of what actually happened to Emmett Till. Now, the production is great and it has me hooked. With this episode, we're going to pick up where we left off. They just brought Emmett Till's body back from Mississippi to Chicago, and we hear his mom wants to have an open casket so everyone can see what happened to her son. But before we jump into this episode, shout out to the notification gang. If you're new to the channel, you're going to be a part of it. Hit the subscribe button, turn on your notification bell so you get something every time I upload. Hit that like button, it's the easiest thing you can do. Now, like I said, this is true events, and I know for some people it's hard to watch, so I'm going to try to break it down as easy as I can for you so we can all follow along. So let's jump into it. This is episode 3 of Women of the Movement. We start the episode off with breaking news for everyone watching TV. Now, they show different families. They show black families, white families. Some of the white families are turning it off because they don't want to hear about it. But this is raising awareness to the black families that didn't know about it, and also the white people that cared. They're seeing what actually happened to young Emmett Till down in Mississippi. Mamie, she wanted to have an open casket because she wanted everyone to see what happened to her son. Now, she told the guy at the mortuary, don't touch her son. But what he did was he sewed him up a little bit just to, keep everything together. But it's still a terrible sight to see. And this is what she wanted for everyone to notice what actually happened and what's going on in the South. She tells him he did a beautiful job because this is one of the last times she's going to be able to see her son. And she's thanking him. And he's telling her, man, there's thousands of people outside that want to come in here and see your son. And that's what she wants. She wants everyone to see what happened. The line is long. I'm talking about it's thousands of people coming out here, and they're letting their kids see what's really going on out here. Because just like Emmett didn't know how it was in the South, these kids need to see it at an early age because it's real out here. This is their real lives. This can happen to anybody. It could have been anybody's son, especially going down there in the South at that time. People are passing out. Now, I know me personally, if I would have seen it, especially as a young kid, seeing another kid like that, that would have really hurt. Now, I was in a car wreck. I don't know if you can see my scar on the top of my head, but I had my whole head cracked open. So my brother seeing that, it's very bad. Like, yeah, I don't know how you can stomach that. And this is just the crowd on the first night. They're going to hold another open casket for him tomorrow. And with people seeing this, it's just going to bring in more people to see what actually happened. Mamie, she's preparing food for all of the NAACP people that helped out with this, because with all of this help and all of the attention that's been drawn to it, they've arrested 2 men down in Mississippi. Now, Grandma is saying just because we have 2 people arrested doesn't mean that they're going to be indicted or potentially go to jail. This is just how it happens. And she's telling her, you don't need to cook all this food for everybody. For them, there wouldn't be a chance for her to even have her son up here where she can bury him or see out them. But she's saying in this case, they probably would. What she means is they're trying to cover up a young black boy dying at the hands of a white man. So they need to get there. But what she does is she ends up taking over the cooking so Mamie can stay focused and think about her son in this dire moment. Gene is telling her to be strong throughout all this. We know he's been by her side since the beginning of this series, and he's telling her if it gets too bad for you, today is the day you don't have to be strong. I'll just sneak you out the back. But what he's going to do, he's going to be there, he's going to comfort her, and he's going to look out for her while they're at the funeral. The pastor, he's praying over young Emmett, and he's also thanking all the journalists for coming out there and putting this word out so they can actually have this funeral and be able to see Emmett at least one last time. But what they're also talking about is everyone coming together. Today's not a day to be in pain. Yes, there's pain, but we got to make sure that this doesn't happen to any other of our young boys, our young women, or anybody at that matter. You see the newspaper in Sumner, Mississippi. The governor orders investigation of a kidnap/murder. Now we have a lawyer, Mr. Chapman. He came in, he picked up the article. What he's going to do is start defending the white folk down here in Mississippi and try to help cover up everything within the police station and everything else that these white people have going on. Simeon from Jet Magazine, he actually talks to Mr. Chapman and he's saying, you think we'll be able to get a fair jury down here in Mississippi with all these white folk? Now, Chapman, I told you he's here to help cover up things. He's saying, oh yeah, I believe with all the evidence and things we have, it'll be a fair jury down here. Oh yeah, make sure y'all hydrate because it's going to be a scorcher down here. Pretty much Yeah, black people, get out my face. We got it covered down here. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. Sheriff Strider, now he's the one that had jurisdiction of where Emmett Till's body was found. When they went to the lake, that was him there. He made the press conference. Now he's talking to Chapman about it. I'm having niggas call my phone talking about they're gonna lynch me. That's because he's not doing his job. We know he's trying to cover up this whole murder. You remember, he didn't want to release the body to go back to Chicago because he didn't want everyone to see what was happening in his jurisdiction in his little town. Now, Strider, he's upset about Sheriff Smith. That's because his jurisdiction is where Emmett Till was at when he got kidnapped. So Sheriff Strider, he doesn't want him poking around and keep digging into this because he's trying to cover up this whole murder, and the two good old white boys that did all this, keep them out of trouble. Now Chapman is saying, oh, the judge would be all right with this, but Strider, he's getting scared because he knows with all of the eyes on this case, he might not be able to cover it up, even as the judge. Now Chapman's giving him the facts. He said the first night, 10,000 people went to Emmett Till's wake. Now that was just the first night. So you know it's going to be double that, triple that during the daytime. And he's telling them no grand jury is just going to stumble over that and be like, oh, nothing happened. The reporter for New York, he's talking to Simeon of Jet Magazine, and he's asking them where they're staying. Now they're staying with Dr. Howard. If you don't know who Dr. Howard is, he's an activist. He was also a surgeon. He was one of the mentors to Jesse Jackson. So he was a very monumental figure down in Mississippi. He was doing a lot for civil rights down there. So they're saying they're staying with Dr. Howard just for the simple fact that a lot of these places down in the South, they don't allow colors to stay there. So the reporter from New York, he's saying, I'm probably gonna go stay with y'all. I'm sure that those hotels are just as good, if not better, than those white folks. The sheriff, he comes out. Now they start questioning him. Sheriff, you were there when they pulled that young man's body out of the water. Now what he's trying to do is say, how do we know that that was actually Emmett Till? There's still a kidnapping and he hasn't been found. So for all I know is Emmett Till is still alive. Plus we couldn't tell who this young man was in the water. He's trying to get all of this attention off of him because he doesn't want to have this brutal murder of a young black man by two white men and he didn't do anything for it. So what he's trying to do is make the media believe, oh, this probably wasn't Emmett Till. This could be any black guy. We don't know who it was. Everyone's listening to him and he's saying the boy doesn't look anything like the pictures. Well, of course not. The young man was beaten to death, stabbed, hung, and thrown in the water. Of course, he's not going to look exactly how he looked in the picture. So he's trying to make the media believe that there's still a kidnapping and Emmett Till is still out there. But all of us are looking like there's no way you want us to believe that. Chapman knows about the cover up, and what he's doing is he's starting to ask other people. He's trying to piece together things. He wants to get a timeline of where the two men were that night, and also being able to convince the grand jury that the boy that was found is in fact Emmett Till. Now they're saying that there was a third person that was there with him. Now we know it was a colored guy. We know that, but they're trying to figure out who he is. Now they're bringing in people to try to verify that the body was Emmett Till's. Now you remember he had his dad's ring on. This is the black guy that told Uncle Moses, hey, you go down there and look. He said there was a ring and it had the markings on it. So right now we have confirmation that that was Emmett. Even the uncle knew that that was Emmett when he seen the boy. They are working their butt off to try to cover this up. This man takes the stand to talk about the autopsy that he did on Emmett Till. Now Chapman's asking, did you identify the race of the body? He's saying, oh, I couldn't tell by how long it was in the water. We all could see that that was a young black boy. So what he's trying to do is say, oh, the body was just in the water too long and it was too damaged for me to be able to tell what was the race of this young man. September 6, 1955. When Mamie gets home, she's trying to take her mind off of everything that's going on. But she turns the radio on and you hear, only you. And that was her and Emmett's song. And when she looks out the window, she starts to picture him just down by the light pole, just like nothing happened. Damn. I couldn't even explain how that feels to be a mother to lose your son. After hearing everything from the witnesses about who seen the body, what identifying marks they had, the jury here, they actually find the two gentlemen guilty of kidnapping and murder. With the news of these gentlemen being found guilty of it, people are starting to relax. I won't say relaxed. I'll say they're more relieved that maybe potentially justice can be found. Now, the gentleman from the NAACP is saying all of this is made possible because of Mamie speaking up for her son. What the NAACP wants is Mamie to come out to a couple of their rallies and events and actually speak. Since she's one of the first people to come forward, especially with the media attention that they're getting on this, they want her to start speaking, especially so they can get eyes and they can get attention on other families that this may have happened to or potential families in the future. Two gentlemen are having a discussion on, can the NAACP actually bring change to Mississippi when the government can't? Now, Dr. Howard, he shows up and he's telling them that we did boycott the gas stations. Now, if all the black people stop going to white gas stations because they only have whites only bathrooms, then yeah, they're going to get hit hard in their pockets. And we know one thing about them white folk, they love their money. So if they're getting cut out, then they're going to abide by it. They may not like it, but they'll put up with it. What Dr. Howard is trying to tell them, yeah, this is an act of war because I'm on the hit list for the most dangerous white supremacist group in the South. So yes, that gas station boycott, it was an act of war. And down here, the white folk think bathrooms, education, all of it is a war. So he begs to differ. The NAACP can make a difference. What everyone's trying to do now with the judge, they figure they're not going to be able to get a fair trial down there and they may potentially lose this. Now, that's because everyone in the town, they're against Bryant and the other man because they're rednecks and they know that they probably did this. So what they're out here doing is they're throwing out ideas of busting in jury from a different town. You know, those good old white folk on the other side of town that we kind of go and visit every now and then. That's what they want to do, bring them in so they can go ahead and get these gentlemen off. What they're trying to do is get Carol Bryant not to get up there and testify, but they want to bring in the admission of the wolf whistle. You know, the whistle that she said happened and then, you know, she got offended by it. So they're saying if they can bring up the whistle, that will be enough for the courts to go ahead and admit it into evidence without her taking the stand. It's time for Bryant and his counterpart to enter in their plea. Now, when they get up there, his boy, not guilty. Nope, not guilty at all. But Bryant, he kind of hesitates and he looks at Bryant and then Bryant lifts his head up and goes ahead and says, not guilty. That's because Bryant know they did something wrong and they are very close to getting his ass. Now, this is where things just get blown out of proportion and carried away here. This gentleman comes out after both of them plead not guilty and he starts talking about maybe there's a hoax. Maybe someone brought a black body from a different county and placed it over here to stir up the media. Now, he also says that Mamie may be a part of this hoax. Now, you hear Simeon from Jet Magazine saying, why would she be in the hoax when her son is missing? When that was her son, she identified that as her son. But I told you from the beginning of this episode, they be in a cover up to try to make all of this disappear. Simeon and everyone else leaves to go back to Dr. Howard's. Now, Jimmy, he's still here to try to find and tie up some loose ends. This gentleman comes up and tells him, hey, you heard about that third man? He's talking about the black guy that was there. And Jimmy says, yeah, who hasn't? Well, he actually gives him a name and his name is Too Tight. And he says there's a girl that's cool with him that may potentially talk and tell where he's at. While all this is going on, Mamie, she's getting prank calls to her house where people are threatening her. If you go down to Mississippi and do this, it's not going to be good for you or the mayor. You know how these people play. They try to scare you. They try to spook you. When most of the time they get on that phone, they not going to do a damn thing when they see you. Mamie's telling everybody about the calls that she's getting. Now, the NAACP, they want her to go down to Mississippi and actually testify because a mom's testimony in the courtroom, especially in the South, it holds a lot of weight. Now, the only thing is grandma's saying how dangerous it is. But what they're offering is she'll come down there with Dr. Howard. They're going to escort her down there personally. And he has his own security, armed guards. So when she goes down there, it's not just going to be hopping on the train and going there. It's actually going to be some transportation behind the scenes that nobody knows to keep her safe and be able to protect her until she can take the stand to testify. And she's adamant about going. And any mother would. I don't know a mother that would turn down the chance to go down there and tell her story about her son and to speak about him in a good light so everyone to know that he was a good boy. So she's telling her mom, hey, I'm going down there. I don't care what happens. I'm going down there and testifying. She's been working on her speeches and she actually has the chance to present this to the crowd in front of a church. And she starts telling about her life and how she was doing very good about a month ago. But all that changed when her son went down to the south in Mississippi and he ended up killed. But this is what the NAACP wanted. They wanted her to tell her story so to enlighten others and be able to bring eyes on this type of activity. Jimmy, he's following up on his leads to find where Too Tight is. Now, this lady here is the one that the guy mentioned will probably know where Too Tight is. When she sees Jimmy, she says, "How you in a juke joint and you ain't sweating a lick?" Well, that's because this man's here on business. And he's saying Too Tight owes me a drink. I haven't seen him in a while. So what she tries to do is play it off. Oh, I haven't seen him either. Now, Jimmy's talking to her. He's like, "I'll help you find where Too Tight is." With the help of your husband, of course. But it turns out her husband is missing also. So did they try to get rid of both of them? They'll get on the train. They'll hop off. They'll get in the car. They'll drive to a safe house, stay the night there, move again in the middle of the night because they don't want anyone to follow them. And they don't want to make it easy for the Klan or any of the white people that may potentially want to try to stop her from testifying. Now, down at the house, there's a little boy trying to get in, and he said he knows something about the kid from Chicago. So they need to go in there and wake up Dr. Howard so this kid can tell all of the information he knows so they can try to get this case to go. Now, the kid said the morning that Emmett was killed, they seen him in the back of a truck between two Negro men. Now, that could be Henry Lee and Too Tight, but it turns out they were in Drew, Mississippi, which is a whole nother county from where he was killed. So now they're piecing it together. They're trying to move this trial into a whole nother county. You know what I'm saying? Sumner, that's where they want to have the trial because they can control who the jury is. But really, this should be in Drew. Now they're trying to move the trial back over into Drew, into that county. And they're saying, well, there's not enough time. But Dr. Howard, he's like, well, it looks like we need to get to work then. We need to move this trial back to where it's supposed to be. Now they're trying to move through the night so they can get to Mississippi without any problems. But while they're driving, there's a police car sitting off to the side. You hear him say, "Hey, slow down, slow down." It looks like it's a speed trap. Now this guy, he hops on the road behind them. So they start praying. And that's where the end of the episode is. There you go, episode 3. Women of the movement. We know how this plays out, but let me know what you think about the whole situation about the cover up and them trying to move the trial to a different county so they can manipulate the jury. Let me know what you think about that. I'm MoedotJ. If you like the content on the channel, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. I'm out.
Jimmy on the beat, boy.